Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Second Button podcast. We're Brian and Andrew, and this episode redeemed everything bad we said about Seinfeld last week.
Yeah. Yeah, the last one, yeah. It was just, I felt bad because we shit on it, but it's like, hey, there's got to be, bad to be good.
You got to shit on something.
Yeah, I was texting you before this. I'm like, I was taking my notes and everything. Like, this is a great episode. There's so many memorable scenes and lines in this one episode.
If you said Yankee beans,
Yeah,
these pretzels are making me thirsty, and you're not supposed to do that, it doesn't feel like the same episode, but it all is the same episode.
Yeah,
So.
and it works really, really well. But yeah, this is real nice. Anyways, yeah, doing season 3, episode 11, the alternate side, which is kind of a weird title for it.
Yeah,
Kinda,
like alternate side of the road. Is that a Woody Allen reference? Maybe we should probably look this up before we start recording. Maybe it's
Jamie,
a reference.
look that up for us.
Yeah, somebody look that up. Let us know.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like moving cars from the other side of the street. I don't know. Anyways.
But this was originally aired on December 4th of 1991, so we're getting into Christmas territory here.
91? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this opens up with a bit about car alarms, stand-up bit here. How, like, the car alarm acts like a nervous, hysterical person when, someone gets near it. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're kind of doing the act. It's like, oh, yeah. And it's kind of like, really, annoying and car horn and everything going off. It's like, and Jerry's like, I would like a car alarm that's like, more subtle. Like someone goes and, tries to break in and goes, excuse me?
Side eyes it. When was the last time you heard a car alarm and you thought, somebody's stealing that car? Or do you hear a car alarm and you go, fucking someone's car alarm's going off?
Yeah.
They're useless. And like no one's hearing a car alarm and saying, crap, someone's stealing that car. Even if you saw someone like crawling underneath and trying to hotwire, like he's trying to turn his alarm off, you wouldn't think they're stealing it.
Yeah, I know, definitely. You hear it all the time, and it's just always like, oh, somebody shut that car off.
Yeah.
Not like, uh-oh, somebody's stealing that. I better do something. Yeah. And even if they did, what would you do? I'm like, oh, they're driving away.
Yeah, call the police and like, yeah, we're not going to find them.
Yeah, no, we're definitely not going to do that. But anyways, opens up at Jerry's apartment, and he's telling George how his car got stolen right off the street. They stole it. And then they're like, George is like, how'd they start it? And he's like, they must have crossed the wires or something. And George is like, I can't make spaghetti, and they're crossing wires and starting cars.
This
Kramer
goes back
comes
to a story my mom told me right before I watched the episode. My mom called and we caught up a little bit. She mentioned a friend that their daughters, like one was like street smart, one was book smart.
Yeah.
And one of them was making craft dinner. She looks at the box and she goes, the directions on this are awful. It says to boil the water, but it doesn't tell you how to boil the water. So she told me that story, and then I went to watch this, and it was George was that person. It doesn't tell me how to boil the water.
Yeah. He can't make spaghetti. I like that. And then just like hot wiring cars. I don't even know how that would work. But anyways. So Kramer comes in and he tells them that they stole his car. Who? Is it they? Oh, they stole it. They kind of do that little bit back and forth. Which is funny because Jerry seems like pretty okay with this. Maybe like it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Or if it's just, that's living in New York for you. Like that kind of bum.
And I found it funny that they did the they thing. And Jerry says they. And then Kramer's like, was it more than just one? Because he said they.
Mm-hmm.
So it's showing that in 1991, they was also used as a singular term for one person. But 30 years later, people still can't wrap their head around it.
Yeah. It's always, just like, he says like, oh, they, like, oh, they, can't fix the sidewalk. They, can't, didn't, that kind of thing. And it's kind of funny. They just kind of quick, bit back and forth about that. Yeah. But anyways, he's like, he's just not too worried about a stolen car. Like, if that happened, like, to my car, it'd ruin me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, well,
Especially if the bed of your truck was full of recyclables.
I know.
You would lose all those nickels. It would be awful.
Oh my God. Yeah, and like that's like $100.
For those that don't listen to other podcasts Brian's on, he has a pickup truck and he keeps his recyclables in the bed.
I fill it up and I sort all my recycling and I take it in and I get a big old cash haul. Last time I made $120, okay?
That's fantastic.
Nothing to, shake a stick at. It's pretty good. But, I mean, it would suck. Like, if my car got stolen, my truck.
Oh, yeah.
And Jerry's just, oh, well. And then, but I think the key is to have a car that no one would want to steal. And that's where a piece of shit F-150 from 2004 comes into play. It's the only way to fly, my friend.
Yeah.
I could leave the car, like, keys in there, windows rolled down, somebody's just like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
they drop, and they throw change in there.
Yeah. Help this guy out a little bit.
My seat's all blown out. Like the leather or whatever plastic vinyl seat is just all cracked and split.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's 20 years old. And then I had like a coworker talking about their cars, like, oh, my car's falling apart. It's so old. It's like 2015. I'm like, okay, take it easy, pal.
It's okay. You'll survive.
Yeah. But anyways, so Jerry, he says like, oh, I better call my car phone company to cancel the service, and that right there is really wild to me. It's like the sign of the times.
Yeah, it really aged it.
Like, imagine having a separate phone in your car and then paying for that.
Yeah.
Like, a separate number and everything. Like, good God, that's so weird to me. I remember seeing cars.
You couldn't take it out of the car. It was just in the car.
Yeah. So it's just like, and also, I guess it could be like, how important are you that people need to get a hold of you while you're driving?
Yeah.
That's definitely before, like, cell phone laws or anything like that. I don't know if you have those in Canada.
Yeah.
But like here, like even just like being on your phone or holding it and texting or whatever, you get a ticket.
Even if you're using your phone as a GPS, if you have it in your hand, that's also,
Yeah. Okay. Which, makes sense. Distraction. And then, but I remember seeing car phones in like TV shows and movies and thinking like, oh man, that's luxurious.
My friend's dad had one.
That's the future.
It was like the bag phone.
Yeah.
And he was an insurance adjuster or something like that, so he used it for work. And if he was out doing an adjustment, something he had to call somebody, he had the phone there. And I remember just looking, I'm like, this is wild. Like, wouldn't even sit close to it. I was scared I'd kick it with my feet or something. This fancy phone on the floor.
You're like, oh, it's so fancy. Yeah, exactly. It must be rich.
Yeah.
That, or like a friend had a TV, and like his mom had like a van. Mm-hmm. And it had a TV in there. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I had a van with the TV that folded down from the top and took DVDs and stuff.
I'm like, yeah.
Fancy.
I'm like, that's so...
Fancy
that's
Ford
so,
van.
I mean, yeah. Fucking made it there.
Yeah.
Or it's just like random like pieces of tech that like are unnecessary nowadays. Like an intercom in a house. I don't know if you ever had like any...
I've seen them.
Knew anybody? Yeah, seen that? That's it's completely worthless. Now, let's say if you had a huge house and you needed to get a hold of somebody, everybody has their phone on them.
Yeah.
You can just text
or
whatever.
Need that,
like, hey, you're in the west wing of the house. East wing. But I remember my friend's grandparents had a house that was pretty big, and they had intercoms in it. And I was like, oh my, they didn't ever use them, but I was like, oh my God, as a kid, I'm like, you're so rich. It's completely awesome that you have super intercoms in the room. Yeah. Anyways, but so back to it. George was saying, as Jerry's gonna call the phone company, George is like, hey, you should call your car phone. Like maybe the guy picks it up.
Yeah.
And then Jerry's like, okay. He calls his phone, and the guy picks up. It's Larry David.
Yeah.
And so like the interaction's pretty good. So.
He is Larry David, but he was kind of disguising his voice a little bit at the beginning, and then it wore off as the scene went on.
Yeah. I didn't even think about it till almost the end. Yeah, you're right.
And when Kramer grabs it, you can tell for sure it's Larry David. Before that, you're like, is that Larry David?
Yeah, he wasn't laying the Larry on.
Yeah.
But he goes like, the conversation's like, hey, can I ask you a question? Sure. Did you steal my car? Yes, I did. But that's my car. I didn't know it was yours. go back and forth, and the guy's like, he goes, "Well, can I have it back?" No, I'm gonna keep it.
What are you gonna do with it? I don't know.
Conversation.
Drive around.
Yeah. What are you gonna do with it? Yeah, I don't know. Drive around. The guy's just driving his car and talking to him.
Yeah.
And then Kramer wants to talk to the guy. He gets the phone. And then Kramer left some gloves in the glove box.
But first,
like some
Kramer
brown.
takes the phone and just starts talking. He's like, "Who's this?" Like, I when you pass the phone over and they don't say who they are. Because for those that don't know, right now I'm doing a 911 call taking at work. And I'll be talking to someone and give them like instructions on what to do for the first aid portion of this. And then there's another voice all of a sudden. I'm like, "Who's this?" I'm like, "Well, this is Fred." I'm like, "Why?"
Hi, Fred.
Why are you passing the phone around? And then I'll be talking to that person and be another voice responding. I'm like, "Who am I speaking to now?" I'm like, "Oh, it's Sue." Like they're just passing the phone around, not introduce themselves. So when this happened with Kramer, like you could say, "Hi, my name's Kramer," not
whole
just
family
start
gonna have
talking.
a go now.
Yeah, exactly.
But so he talks to the guy and he's like, "Oh, I left some brown gloves in the glove box," and he asks the guy to bring him by the building. He's like, "Okay," and he takes down the address. So it's like the guy's gonna come to the building. He's like, "Get his ass then," but he's just concerned about his fucking gloves. But anyways, and then he gets the phone back to Jerry, and he's like, "Gloves." Anyways, so he asks the guy, "Hey, did you hotwire it?" He's like, "No, the keys were left in it." And then he's like, "Oh, okay." And then he's like, "All right, well, drive safe." And then the guy is just bitching on, "Hey, Jerry, when's the last time you had a tune-up click?" Like he's bitching about his stolen car, but he's said like, Sid left the keys in the car. He's like, George is like, who's this Sid guy? He's like, "Oh, he parks cars on the block. He moves them so from one side to the other so you don't get ticketed." And then, that's. George is like, "Oh, when you pay the guy?" He's like, "Yeah, like $50 a month." And he does it for like, mentions the whole block basically, so 40, 50 cars.
Yeah.
And then Kramer's like, "He makes a fortune." So that's about $2,000 to $2,500 a month. And
in
that
91.
would be, in today's money, it would be about $59,000 a year. Let's say he makes that. It's not a fortune.
Not if you're paying for rent in New York, no.
Yeah. Well, it means more than I make. I should start parking cars.
Yeah, but I'm not clean. I'm living well.
Yeah. But George, he's intrigued. Like, "Oh, money." I think, no, it goes to this point. Yeah, George is unemployed at this point, so he doesn't have a job. But anyways, so Sid comes in. He apologized about leaving the keys in the car. He said he must have got distracted because they're filming the new Woody Allen movie up the block, and there's trucks and people everywhere. Must have. He's like, "Oh, I think when I was trying to look for Woody Allen, got distracted." So, and then Kramer just casually mentions, he's like, picking his nails. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be in that movie." He's gonna be an extra, and he's like, "Well, how'd you get it?" And he's like, "I was watching them film, and then they asked me to be in the movie out of the clear blue sky."
Yeah.
I got equality.
I got equality. Crosses his legs.
Yeah.
And George seems so upset that Kramer is getting this part. Like he's incapable of being happy for his friends. He just has to be jealous of what they have.
Of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like with this show. It's like they're just terrible friends. This would be, they'd be, they almost like never really stick up for anyone but the core four, really. But it's fun. Anyways. So, and even then, George is still not the best friend.
Still George.
Yeah. So Sid, he mentions how he's going out of town next Wednesday. He can't park the cars. And then they get into a bit, him and Jerry, about next Wednesday versus this Wednesday. The upcoming Wednesday is, in 2 days. So that's the next Wednesday. And he's like, "No." Yeah, he's just going back and forth. It's like, if I meant this Wednesday, what does Sid win?
If we're talking about putting this episode on Wednesday of this week, would you say this Wednesday or next Wednesday?
This Wednesday.
I would as well. Okay, we're on the same page then. So the schedule's not going to be messed up, guys.
Yeah, you'd only say that. I mean, it's totally would be next if you're on that Wednesday.
Yeah.
Really.
So Jerry's wrong and Sid is right. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wrong. Sorry. Bye-bye. So George, he asks, who's going to move the cars while he's gone? He doesn't give a shit. The cars can move themselves for all I care. He's going to be gone. And then George asks, if he can do it while he's gone. It's just like, fine, I guess.
They can move themselves if they want, he says.
Yeah. He's just he kind of asks, like, you got nothing going on that you want to move cars? He's like, well, I'm in between jobs at the moment, or like
transition phase.
Transition phase. Yeah, I'm figuring things out. But yeah, so he's like, fine, and he's like, just don't forget to take the keys out. And that's like pretty much it. Okay, so not to poke holes in a plot or whatever. It's funny, but I'm like, how does that work? Does this guy just have 40 to 50 spare keys hanging out, and how does he know which one goes where? And then, because it's not like he can just borrow your car keys and then bring them up to you again.
Yeah, do you get an extra set made for him? Is that what you do? Yeah.
Like, you'd have to give him your car key, and then he'd have to know which one goes where. And I'm like, this doesn't seem like the best operation.
A lot of organizational work would be required, I think.
Yeah. It's not a real thing. I mean, I don't know if am I crazy here? It just seems like a made up plot point for this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, boy, I hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
We'll check with Doug Christ. He knows New York better than we do. Well, ask Doug. That's the thing people do in New York.
Yeah. So the phone rings, and this time you can't hear the other side of the conversation. It's just Jerry is the car thief. He's just asking about the defroster and how to do that. So Jerry doesn't have a car, so he's got to rent a car. Cuts to the next scene, and Elaine and Jerry are at the car rental joint.
And this is such a classic scene too that I forgot was in this episode.
Yeah. This is one of it's classic scene. It's anyway. So this is so great, but we're gonna get to the conversation. But before that, Jerry and Elaine, they're talking about the guy that Elaine's dating at the moment. He's an author. Things are going pretty well, except he's 66 years old. Mm-hmm. So Elaine and Jerry and the gang, they're probably early 30s, mid 30s in the show. Mm-hmm. And that's a big gap in age.
Like dating her dad.
Yeah, it's could be trouble.
Yeah,
but they get called up to the desk, and Jerry he said like, oh, I made a reservation for a midsize car, and the clerk agent, she's typing away, and they continued to talk about the 66-year-old dude, and she's kind of trying to sell it, like he's in good health, he works out, he's vibrant. Mm-hmm. Oh, Jerry, you'd like him. And then Jerry in the bed is like, why do people say that? I hate everyone. Why would I like him?
Why is he the one?
That's a good line. That's what I was wondering. Like, who wrote this episode? It's a lot of good lines, and it works out really well. I think Larry David was one of the writers of this episode.
Yeah.
Jamie, look at that. But anyways, and then Elaine asks if Jerry would ever date a 66-year-old woman. And then he's like, well, I tell you, she would have to be really vibrant. And then this next scene's great. So, agent, she's, I'm sorry, we have no midsize available at the moment. He's like, I don't understand. I made a reservation. Do you have my reservation? Agent, yes, we do. Unfortunately, we ran out of cars. But the reservation keeps the car here. That's why you have the reservation. And she goes, I know why we have reservations. I don't think you do. If you did, I'd have a car. See, you know how to take the reservation, but you don't know how to hold the reservation. And that's really the most important part, the holding. Anybody could just take them. And then he just he acts it out. It's like, oh, yeah.
I feel like this came right out of his stand-up. Like this scene.
It was perfect.
It feels like he put a lot of work into this because it just came off perfect.
Yeah, and then the agent, goes to speak to her supervisor, and then she goes into back office, and then through a window you can see her talking to another person, and then this was great too. It's like he's like, oh, here we go, the supervisor. You know what she's saying over there? What? Hey, Marge, you see those people over there? They think I'm talking to you, so pretend that you're talking to me. Okay, now you start talking. Oh, you mean like this? So it looks like I'm saying something, but I'm not really saying anything at all?
And it's perfect because it's mirrored between
because they're going back and forth. So now you say something else, and I won't tell, and they won't yell at me because I thought, they thought I was checking in with you. Okay, that's it. That's enough. You see you later. The agent comes back. He says, "Oh, I can't do anything for you." And then Jerry's like, "Yeah, you look like you were having a real conversation over there."
And that's the play though when you're in customer services to I'll talk to the supervisor, and then you're not the bad guy anymore.
Yeah,
the supervisor is who's not out on the floor, so you can kind of in that situation.
I work customer service, and everybody always wants to like talk to the top, who's the bigger, badder, manager, who's the boss.
Yeah,
I want to talk to the Bowser, not the baby Bowser here.
And you just put them,
and if it's
so you put them on mute for a minute, and you just kind of hang over a second. No, they said I had to not do that.
Yeah, but it's that's kind of how it is, and then even if it's the same answer, but it's coming from a higher up manager, then you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
People are more happy about that. I'm like, it's the same fucking thing I said.
Yeah, the policy doesn't change because you talk to someone different. It's the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So agent says that they they don't have the mid-size, but they have a compact you can do. Jerry, fine, I'll take it, kind of thing. And then he's like, agent asks him like, "Oh, Mr. Seinfeld, would you like the insurance?" And it says, Jerry's like, "Yeah, you better give me the insurance because I'm gonna beat the hell out of this car. I'm gonna beat the hell out of this thing." And the woman's face is like, as he's signing. And they continue to talk about the 66-year-old that Elaine's dating. And then Jerry just yeah, if you like it, that's all that matters, kind of thing. And then immediately Elaine starts fading. It's like, I love being with him. I like being with him. It's okay being with him. And then next scene at Jerry's says, Elaine, I don't enjoy being with him. She let that sink in pretty fucking quick. Jerry didn't even do anything, like saying like, "Oh, he's too old." Didn't even give any negative feedback. It's just Elaine already just.
There was a cut scene, a scene that was cut there.
Oh, really?
It's Elaine saying that they were at I forget where they were, but she was talking with him, and she mispronounced a word, and he corrected her in front of another couple. She goes, "When I'm dating, I want to focus on dating, not on grammar."
Yeah.
And then Jerry says, "That's actually pronunciation, not grammar." And she goes, "Not you too." And then she goes on about how she just doesn't like the guy. So,
yeah. But so she's going to meet him for lunch, but she wants to break up with him, and she's rather do it over the phone. And then Jerry's like, "Well, how many dates have you gone on? 7. That's got to be a face-to-face breakup." If it was 6, it'd be a different story.
I don't know where that is in the handbook, but it sounds like a legitimate rule.
Yeah. So Kramer kind of comes in the door, and then George just busts in right behind him, barges in. His hair's all frazzled. He's got a belt full of keys. He's like, "I got a car overheating, an alarm that won't go off." And George is just losing it. He's trying to get a bucket of water. I don't know, dump it on the car, I guess.
He's coping just as well as George would cope.
Yeah. So, Kramer starts talking about shooting his scene. So he was supposed to be just an extra in the background carrying groceries, but during the filming, he fucked up and he tripped. And then Woody Allen saw and thought he was so funny, and now Kramer has a line in the movie.
Yeah.
And they're all like, he's in a scene with Woody Allen. Kramer's gonna be a star, baby. And then they want to hear what the line is, and so he turns to Woody and he says the line, "Boy, these pretzels are making me thirsty."
So classic.
And he's like, they all kind of critique him. Is that how you gonna say it? And he's like, "Well, I'm working on it."
But George is the first one to criticize him because George is still mad that he has this movie.
Like, that's how you're gonna say it? Like he's not worth it. Yeah. And then Elaine says her take on the line, and then Jerry does, and they all stink. Kramer knows. It's like, you guys don't know how to act because Kramer's now a big shot. Yeah. And then George gives his take on it, and he just yells out, all frustrated, these pretzels are making me thirsty.
They all played it as their character, like their character would actually say it.
Yeah, and then he stinks. He's like, I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then George is like, well, maybe the pretzel guy is stressed because he has no job, no girl, and he's parking cars for a living. He's hearing the honking cars in the background. He yells out on the street, all right, I'm coming. These pretzels are making me thirsty. And then he storms off downstairs.
And in that scene, the corner of the rug behind the couch, the corner of it was flipped over.
Yeah.
And Ashley noticed it, and I rewound it to see if George kind of kicked it when he was running the bathroom. Nope. Just the whole scene, the corner of the rug was folded back on itself.
Okay, yeah. I saw that, and I didn't know if that was George when he was storming to the bathroom.
That's what I thought. So we rewound it. No, it wasn't. Unless it was one of the previous takes, or maybe someone tripped over it, so they moved it, but didn't realize it was going to be in the scene. So.
Yeah.
Someone better get fired for that one.
So the scene ends, but it comes back, and it's still at Jerry's apartment. There's a knock, and then Elaine's there with Owen. He's out. He's out cold. Mm-hmm. And then Jerry helps bring him into the apartment. It's like, boy, he took it hard. Like the breakup nearly killed him. Wow. So they lay the guy on the sofa, and they call for an ambulance. The dude's unconscious. Mm-hmm. Kramer busts in, rehearsing his pretzel line, and then they're like, oh, wow. The guy's out cold. He's like, they don't know what to do, what you're supposed to do with a passed out guy who's unconscious. It's like, raise his legs, get blood to his head. No, you lower him, get blood to his feet. You gotta hold compress. Well, you put a wet sponge on his head, and he's like, oh, hold it with a belt. He's gonna strap a wet sponge to the guy's head. And then Kramer's like, maybe he overdosed on drugs. You gotta walk him around. He's like, he's not on drugs. Well, he could have dropped acid while you weren't lurking. And then they're like, oh, maybe he's diabetic. He may need a cookie or something. And then they proceed to shove a cookie in this guy's mouth.
And I was watching
Kramer's just moving his jaw up and down.
And it's funny. It's a funny scene.
Yeah.
But like my note says, I wish this unconscious scene was less real. Because people do this shit.
Okay, I was about
I went to a call one time. I'm trying to do it without giving any indicators of who people are. I responded one time, and person A called 911 for person B that was diabetic and unconscious. Mm-hmm. And before we got there, this person was trying to help them. And I'm like, what is in their mouth? And we got our suction thing out. And suction, it's this thick black. And I was like, are they vomiting? Like, is there blood in there? Trying to figure out what's going on. And then I look over and I see do you guys have molasses in like milk cartons? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or like jars or something.
Yeah, so this is like in a milk carton style. And it's a full liter, so 4 cups of molasses. And they were pouring that in their mouth because they're diabetic. Mm-hmm. So they thought that would help them. But it's quite thick. So they actually filled their mouth with thick goo.
So they couldn't breathe.
They couldn't breathe because they had this molasses full in their mouth. And people do this stuff. It's like the cookie thing. I'm like, I want to laugh, but it's real. This is how people respond.
Crumbs all over him. Kramer's like, I don't know how we're going to get him to swallow.
Yeah, like, even now, when I'm answering the phone and the other side, people are like, I'm going to do this. I'm like, no, please do not do that. Just don't do anything. Yeah. And we tell people don't have anything to eat or drink. Okay, I'm just going to give them a glass of water. I'm like, that's something that don't have anything to eat or drink. Well, can he suck on a candy? Like, what need does he even eat candy now? Just this is the non-diabetic ones. Diabetics, yeah, you could probably have candy, but everything else, they just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny, but way too real for me. Just give me flashbacks.
Yeah, I might note there. So obviously that's wrong, but what should they have done?
Just wait.
Just leave them there and just let them.
I think the biggest thing when people are sick is that you don't always have to do something. You could just do nothing. It's okay.
But like everything's going on. They're panicking. Kramer's going to get a blender to blend up cookies so he can drink it. You can't blend cookies. Cookies blend. And Elaine's panicking and she just yells, "Where's the ambulance?" And then we hear a tire screech and a glass shatter. Scene ends, but it comes back, and it's been like a half an hour later. Still no ambulance. And Jerry's on the horn trying to figure out where they are.
Yeah.
But there's a buzz, and it's the paramedics. So they're late because of George. He's gridlocked the whole block, triple parking cars, and he slammed into them while driving Jerry's rental car.
Yeah.
George comes up with a bumped head from the accident. Yeah, he sees the dude and he asks what happened. They have no idea. Paramedics you hear him off screens like, who shoved cookies in his mouth?
You're not supposed to do that.
They act like, oh no, it was there when we got him. Like they're gonna get in trouble. But yeah, George was saying, he was parking the cars and he saw Woody Allen. He got distracted. That's why he crashed the car into the ambulance. Kramer comes in and he says that, how George is fucking up the production of the movie. Woody's pissed at George. He's like, me? He's that mad at me? Should I apologize to Woody?
George is more happy that Woody acknowledged him.
Yeah. He must be a big Woody Allen fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've not seen a single movie of his. So, but yeah. Let's see. So Kramer says, he's like, I may try and smooth things over with Woody, and as he puts on his shades indoors because Kramer's a superstar now.
The aviators.
No. So cuts to a stand-up scene where Jerry's talking about first aid like hundreds of years ago. There's no medicine, no tech, no equipment. What do? They were just there first, hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Can you help me? No, but we were first. Like YouTube comments, how people would just first.
Yeah. Do people still do that?
I don't know. I was about to what was the point? That was dumb. And now, yeah.
Just so they could be the first comment. First.
Yeah.
But like 7 people saying first.
We should do is go on find random videos that have 50 views or something like that or less even from 10 years ago. First.
If you would like to do that, you could go to Andrew's Alcove or the Second Button podcast or the Tone Jerks podcast or East Coast DNA. And you could go in there and be the first person to comment on 95% of those videos.
Yeah. Yeah. They come back to Jerry's apartment and, Sid's laying into George. He says, you never said you didn't know how to drive. Because he damaged a bunch of cars. He's just teeing off on George. And Sid's got another good line. He says moving cars one side of the street to the other don't take no more sense than putting on a pair of pants. My question to you is, who's putting on your pants? And then Kramer comes in with a newspaper.
I put my pants on, Sid. I don't believe you. You put your pants on, you move those cars.
Yeah. And then Kramer comes in with the paper. And then he says, oh, you see the paper? And then Jerry's like, no. Even though it's Jerry's paper. So there's an article about Owen, the author, the writer. So he had a stroke at a friend's apartment. It goes on. It's and then Kramer's like, Jerry, you're the friend.
You made the big time now, Jerry.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Oh, in the article it talks about how it wouldn't have been as severe if there wasn't a bunch of commotion blocking paramedics. So George's commotion, and he also mentioned how the commotion delayed Woody Allen's movie and how Woody may never shoot in New York again, all because of George. George is sitting there taking it all in. I'm like, okay, Woody Allen hates you. You almost killed somebody.
Yeah. Do people shoot movies in San Diego? Is that a thing that you ever see being a bigger city?
I don't think so. I think if anything, they're going to do LA.
Yeah. Because Halifax has some movies happening at times. Mm-hmm. And when it reminded me of the story when he said he's not going to shoot here again. They shot Titanic, parts of Titanic they shot right in Halifax.
Oh, okay.
And there's actually a graveyard in Halifax of Titanic. I was going to say Titanic survivors. Not survivors.
Yeah.
People that died in Titanic, bodies that they recovered, they buried some of them in Halifax. Oh, but they shot part of the movie in Halifax, and somebody dropped acid into the chowder for lunch and got everybody fucking out of it on acid.
Oh, shit.
They shut down production for the day. Yeah. I don't know who did it or what their plan was, but they put acid into the chowder and got everybody all fucked up. And they had to stop filming. I don't think it was like Leo and everyone like that, but it was like different scenes.
Somebody,
stuff,
yeah, that's pretty good.
They definitely got everyone high on acid.
I don't know what the end game was for this, but it's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that could have ruined any films being made in Halifax again. Just that one prank, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
just a goof, dude. What the hell's the problem? Like, can't have fun anymore? Anyway, so it goes back to the rental place. They're in line, and Elaine's telling Jerry that she's still with Owen, even though he can't talk, walk, or feed himself. She can't leave him now. It'd be like abandoning him because of his condition. She'd be ostracized from society or from the community. That's what she says. Yeah, the community. Oh, we have a community. Yeah. So they get up to the agent's desk, and he's like, oh, they know that it's damaged, and so Jerry's talking to him about it, and then the agent, says that the damage is going to cost $2,866.
It's a lot of money on a Ford Escort in the 90s, too.
Yeah. It's a lot of money now, but
yeah.
So Jerry,
but the car probably cost less than $10,000 back then.
Oh yeah, definitely. But Jerry isn't worried, because he got the insurance. He's covered. But Jerry wasn't driving the car. George was. And he mentioned that the insurance only covers Jerry. So, this exchange is also pretty good. It's like, all right, well, sir, you're only covered for when you're driving the car. He's like, huh? What's that?
He's like, Then what?
Yeah. He's like, oh, what? He's like, you're not covered for other drivers. Other drivers? Mm-hmm. Your whole business is based on other drivers. It's a rented car. That's who's driving it. Other drivers. Doesn't my credit card cover me or something? Not that particular one. Like, well, I got 100 cards. Here, pick a card, take a card, any card.
Yeah.
He just starts dumping his credit cards. It's like, sir, if you had read the rental agreement, did you see the size of that document? It's like the Declaration of Independence. Who's going to read that?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Seinfeld, as it stands right now, you are not covered for that damage, and there's absolutely nothing that can be done about that. And then Jerry's pissed, and he's just eating pretzels. He's like, these pretzels are making me thirsty. Cut the scene. Cuts to Elaine at Owen's apartment. And she's feeding him like he's a baby. He's sitting there in a wheelchair, and she's just...
And what is a Yankee bean?
I don't know. Like, this scene's great because it's kind of like a monologue. Because the guy's not talking back to her. She just kind of goes on.
Oh, she does great in the scene. It's like, yeah.
He finishes his Yankee beans, and then Elaine, she's like, all right, I'm ready to break up with this guy. It's time to pull off that bandage. So she goes on about how she's not ready to settle down. The two of them don't have common interests. I mean, she likes to run, play tennis, ride bikes, go skiing.
All the stuff she doesn't really do.
And then she lays it on him. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It's a bitch to get here. And the guy's eyes are like, what the fuck?
It's 2 subways. I have to transfer at 42nd Street, take the double R.
That's a great line. I'll be honest with you. It's a bitch to get here. And then he's just sitting there staring at nothing. And then to break the awkward silence, she's eating and she's like, these pretzels are making me thirsty. Oh, man. And then new scene at Monk's. They're just bullshitting. Talking about like, oh, can you die from an odor? Like if you have too much, smelling something for like weeks on end, was it the vomitorium or something like that? Overdosing on odor. And then George is like, are you talking about me? Do I smell?
Of course it's you, George.
And then she mentions, she was on a subway. And then it fucking was gross, smelled. But she ran into and bumped into Owen. He's almost fully recovered now. And it's like, yeah. And then he tells Elaine he was just using her for sex. So real ass dude of the week is Owen. Yeah. Let's go. Woo, 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 woo. So they get the check. And then George insists on covering it. He's like, says, Jerry, I cost you over $2,000. He's like, yeah, a cup of coffee should cover it. Which is pretty good. It's the least I could do. Yeah, no, that is one of the least you could do.
Yeah.
Now, Kramer comes in. He tells him how he got fired from the movie.
Yeah.
He said, like, they rehearsed it a couple times. They're ready to shoot it. And then he said his line, and then he slammed a glass of beer on the bar and shattered it. And a piece of glass hit Woody. And he started crying. I'm bleeding. He's like, it's not a big deal. I don't get why I got fired. And then some woman tells Kramer that he's fired. So he's like, okay, well, that's that. They're quiet for a second. And then Jerry notices Kramer has his brown gloves. Kramer met up with the car thief, got his gloves back. He goes, for crying out loud.
So good.
It's great, yeah. I was thinking this was going to end without a stand-up bit, but no, it kind of was because it had the credits going for a long time. Like, oh man, maybe they finally, because I know they do get out of that eventually. But no, it comes back. Stand-up bit about being sick in a relationship. How that's the best part. Wedding vows, richer for poorer, for better, for worse. The sickness one is all you need. He's like, that's the most important one. That's the only time you need someone there. The rest of the time you can just go off, have a ball, whatever. But if I get the sniffles, you better be there. Which I think is great. Yeah, and definitely when I'm sick, I know I'm just I'm kind of like a baby, but I'm also like leave me alone. I'm just gonna die here.
Leave me alone, but don't go anywhere and be here for me.
Yeah. Last time I was sick, last year with COVID, and it was like the first couple days of like, this is it. I just have tons of Powerade bottles on the everywhere, water bottles. I have my cold medicine. I was like, this is how I go out.
It's not the year of Brian.
Yeah. He's in a dark room. I'm like, but yeah, no, I'm definitely a baby. It's like everything bothers me when I'm sick. I'm like, don't fucking talk to me. But be here. But
I'm here to die.
Mm-hmm.
No, when I had COVID, I actually
me.
took a day off to take care of me because I was I just couldn't do anything.
I'm helpless. Yeah.
And then had to isolate too. That was another problem. You can't do
yeah.
anything, and you really can't do anything. So, yeah.
But man, this episode was great.
It was good. It was so much better than the last one.
Yeah, it definitely I've seen the episode. But I honestly laughed out loud.
Yeah,
at parts.
I did as well. It was a good one.
He's like, "Who put your pants on?"
I don't believe you.
Yeah, and then one of my favorites was like, "It's a bitch to get here."
Yeah,
just he's in his eye. One thing I just noticed is his eyes look at her like.
Yeah, he was such a good actor. I looked him up because I'm like, he's got to be something because just the miming acting would be very difficult, but you could see his expression. He just did so well. So I looked him up, and he's a bit guy. He was like an episode of Star Trek. He was in but he's nobody. Not nobody, but he was.
Yeah, nothing big.
Yeah, but just that the voiceless acting was done so well that I thought he had to be somebody. Same as Sid. No, he must have been a comedian or something because he wasn't in much either, but he was so funny. There's no way he didn't make money off being funny.
Yeah. And it's also, it's funny. Yeah, I know you mentioned it's like Owen never said a single word.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Great episode. Yeah, this was a fun one. But, I think that's it. We're going to bring this in for a landing here. There were maybe some voice call-ins, right? Or about doing their...
We still have half a dozen from Michael Cartwright.
Yeah. We'll play those maybe at the end here.
Yeah, we'll play them here at the end. And if we have any more, you can hear those as well. But we'll put another call out before I finish editing the episode and see if we can get a couple more in there.
Yeah, their best, these pretzels are making me thirsties.
Yeah. So we're going to start with Brian's. What's your best pretzels make me thirsty? On the spot.
I do like Jerry's. I was like, these pretzels are making me thirsty.
That's one I always go to too. If I'm eating pretzels and I do it, I copy Jerry's. I'm like, these pretzels are making me thirsty.
Making me thirsty. Or Elaine's, these pretzels are making me thirsty. Yeah. What is her face? Like she's like, this is ruining my life.
Yeah. It's almost like they're sour or soil or spoiled.
Yeah, Kramer's like, that's the worst.
But But yeah, if anyone wants to find us anywhere online, there's a link tree down in the description and show notes, and you can find us there. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter's there. And if you need to get a hold of us, find us in there.
All right.
And we'll see you again in a couple weeks.
See ya.
Goodbye now.
These pretzels are making me thirsty. These pretzels are making me thirsty.
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
They cacahuete me, don't it swath? These pretzels are making me thirsty.